Okay, let's talk about one of the most famous and maybe one of the most terrifying visions in the entire Bible. You know the one? A throne in heaven, lightning, thunder, these wild-winged creatures? Yeah, we're diving into the throne room of Revelation. But here's the thing. What if we've been looking at it all wrong this whole time?
So John, the guy who wrote this, he describes this absolutely incredible scene. You've got a throne, this divine figure sitting on it, lightning flashing everywhere, and these celestial beings just in constant worship. It's a huge, almost overwhelming picture of cosmic power.
And for most of us, that's kind of where the understanding stops, right? It's this grand, mystical vision of God's power. It's supposed to make you feel small, and it totally does. But what if there's a whole other layer to it?
What if all of that incredible imagery isn't just symbolic? What if it's actually the formal language of a heavenly courtroom? I mean, what if John isn't just seeing a throne, but a judge's bench, and what we're witnessing is the opening of a divine legal proceeding? Now, that single question, well, it changes absolutely everything about how you read this book.
So yeah, the traditional view is that this is a powerful, symbolic vision of heaven. And look, it is. But to really get what's going on, we need to crack a kind of hidden code. And it's a code that's rooted in some really old legal traditions.
And what's so cool about this is that the key to unlocking Revelation 4, it isn't some brand new discovery. It's actually a well-known literary format straight out of the Old Testament.
It's called a covenant lawsuit. So think of it like this. It's a specific template, a genre that the ancient prophets used all the time. They would basically stage a courtroom drama in their writings, where God is the plaintiff, the prosecutor, and the judge, all rolled into one.
So why would they do that? Well, it was a genius move, really. It framed God's judgments not as these random angry outbursts, but as the formal, just, and kind of predictable outcome of a broken contract, a broken covenant. It was their way of saying, hey, this isn't chaos, this is a court of law in session, and justice is about to be served. And this wasn't just some vague idea either. These prophetic lawsuits followed a super specific, predictable structure. A fantastic example is right in the book of Micah.
You can really see the legal pattern here, can't you? First up, a summons calls the witnesses, in this case, literally the mountains. Then second, the plaintiff, God, makes his opening statement, basically listing all the good things he's done. Third, the indictment. This is where the formal charges are laid out. And finally, the verdict is delivered. It's a clear, four-step legal proceeding from start to finish, super structured.
Okay, so every court needs a location, a courtroom. So where does this divine trial happen? In the heavenly throne room, which the Old Testament talks about as the meeting place of the divine council. You can kind of think of this as God's heavenly cabinet or advisory board, this assembly of beings who participate in divine governance.
And just like any court you'd recognize, the members all have specific jobs. You've got attendants, you've got messengers running errands, participants in the legal debate, and even advocates, intercessors who argue on behalf of humanity. This is the established cast of characters for a heavenly legal drama.
So, we've got a legal genre, the lawsuit, and we've got a location, the heavenly courtroom. Now here is where it gets really fascinating. John isn't just borrowing a vague concept for Revelation. Nope, he is meticulously, almost surgically, modeling his vision on one specific Old Testament passage, Daniel chapter 7.
At first glance, yeah, they seem pretty similar. Both are these big visions of a heavenly throne room. But when you look closer, the connection is so precise it's just impossible to miss. Daniel 7 is literally the blueprint for Revelation 4.
Just how precise are we talking? Well, biblical scholars have pinpointed 14 distinct parallels between the two scenes. And, this is the kicker, John presents them in the exact same sequence as they show up in Daniel. This is no accident. It's a deliberate, structural, flashing neon sign for anyone who knows their stuff.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. I mean, just follow the flow here. In Daniel, thrones are set. In Revelation, a throne is set. In Daniel, the judge sits. In Revelation, one sits on the throne. In Daniel, books are opened as evidence. In Revelation, a sealed scroll, a book, appears. And then, in both visions, a divine advocate figure, Daniel's Son of Man and John's Lamb, approaches the judge. The parallels aren't just there, they are precise, and they follow the exact same order.
And look, this isn't just some new, fringe idea. There's a really strong scholarly consensus on this. Like the commentary by Beale and Carson says, the resemblance is striking.
John is intentionally signaling to his readers, the ones who know their scripture, hey, pay attention, we are now in the courtroom of Daniel 7.
Okay, so what? Why does any of this matter? What really changes when we swap out the lens of mystical vision for formal court proceeding?
Well, it means that the rest of the book of Revelation, with all its famous seals and trumpets and bowls of wrath, it isn't just a chaotic, unpredictable horror show. It is the methodical, step-by-step execution of a legal verdict that's been handed down from this heavenly court. It's all about cosmic justice, not cosmic chaos.
So let's just wrap this all up. The throne room in Revelation, it's a courtroom. It's deliberately modeled on that legal scene back in Daniel 7. And the whole point of using this legal framework is to show that God's judgments aren't random. They're formal, they're structured, they're just. And it's just an amazing example of how the Old Testament provides the very blueprint for the New.
And you can see this pattern through the whole book. You know those letters to the 7 churches in chapters 2 and 3? That's actually the first part of the lawsuit. It's an evaluation of God's own people. So once that's done, the court's attention right here in chapter 4 turns outward to the nations. This changes everything about how we read what comes next. If Revelation 4 is the divine court being called to order, the gavel striking the bench, it leaves us with one massive, powerful question. What's the verdict that's about to be delivered for our world?